Good morning and welcome to this week's reading. I will say that the theme and the topic and the whole construction of this week's spread was quite a challenge. I had several times where I was beating my head against my desk and, on the verge of tears because the topic that kind of came up for this week, it was just so hard to put my finger on. It was just so slippery. And then I realized that that makes a lot of sense because the theme for this week's spread is all on opinions and what are they, kind of like where do they come from? What is the role that they play? How do they impact us? And so I kind of spent a lot of time on that this week. And the kind of the theme of this week is when standing in front of a locked door, what opinions need to be challenged before you can turn the key? And like I said, I spent a lot of time with the slipperiness of opinions and what are they? Because they cross over into beliefs, they cross over into like all different kinds of areas. And when I was trying to come up with a definition for me, what is an opinion? All I came up with is that opinions are, um, slippery eels that you try to catch with a blindfold on, because when you try to look at them or when you try to understand them, they disappear. Eventually, I came to the understanding for myself that what an opinion is it is a judgment based on what is happening in the moment, which is why they're so slippery, because you can say something, they're statements really of what you are experiencing. And I was going to say believed to be true. The thing is opinions in the moment that they're spoken are believed to be true. The thing is that the moment shifts and who you're with and where you are, all of those things can impact your opinions. Opinions themselves are judgments based on what's going on. And judgments are neutral in a sense. It's the experience and the weight that we put on them that makes them positive, negative, or neutral. And so I sat with that all week. And this was the by far the most difficult spread since I've started creating my own and sharing them here to have created. And now I feel pretty good with what we've got. The purpose for our reading today is to highlight the spaces where your current mental, emotional, physical, and environmental states may be leading to harsh and limiting opinions that impact your current level of engagement. So when we're depleted, when we're distracted, when there's all kinds of different things going on, it will have an impact on the opinions that we have. And, we really want to be able to be more open to what's going on. And so this is going to help us look and see where we might be closed down, where we might be limiting ourselves and being really, really harsh with how we're viewing the world, how we're viewing ourselves. So the question that I'm going to shuffle into the cards is, how might your feelings be shaping what you are seeing right now? So how might your feelings be shaping what you're seeing right now? And I used feelings in the sense of less about more like just emotional feelings, but feelings just in general. I feel overwhelmed. I feel tired. I feel depleted. I feel sad. I feel grief, right? We can feel things from multiple different inputs. And I thought that's why it was important to be able to looking at feelings, because feelings themselves are as slippery as the eels of opinion. So we'll shuffle that in. What might your feelings be shaping? I'm sorry, how might your feelings be shaping what you are seeing right now? Let's find our cards. And here we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our first card asks, what does the weight of the key in your hand reveal? Now, let me give a little bit of background here on this. When I was trying to figure out what opinions were, I had a dream of being in a hallway, like a really, really long hallway with multiple doors. The doors were different colors, different sizes, different shapes, and I had a key. And the opinion was that that key would unlock one of those doors. And it was very important for me to unlock the right door. And so I built everything in the spread around this corridor with all of these doors and the one key. And so holding that key in your hand and the weight of the key in the hand reveals the opinions that you're carrying in regards to what this key can do. What is the key? What will it unlock? Will it leave you stranded in a hallway? Because you can only the dream was you can only use the key on one door. And so what we have here is we have the Page of Swords. And so the weight of the key in your hand reveals that these invitations to new ideas, they can be really, really heavy. They can be really, really scary. So if you're standing in front of a door and you have this key and you're feeling the weight of it, and there's, this invitation to a new way of thinking, an invitation to a new way of being, and you've got this Page of Swords who's sitting in that key, it can be very weighty, especially when we're challenging our opinions, because our opinions require us to think about what we're experiencing. And depending on whether it's fear of something new, whether it's the anxiety of the unknown, or whether it's the anticipation of crossing a new threshold, that's what's held in the key. And that's what's held in the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords comes in and says, hey, I got this brand new great idea. Come and play with me, and let's see where this idea is going to take us. And if you're very, very limited and very rigid or harsh in the opinions that you're holding, then this might be the scariest thing that you ever have to do. And so that key gains extreme amount of weight. If you're ready to change your opinions, you might have to hold on to that key a little bit harder because it might be ready to float away because of how the lightness that it brings in. And so one of the nice things too is that, the Page of Swords is sitting in the key, but at the same time, the Page of Swords is bringing in this new fresh air, this new fresh thought. So the corridor itself is being refreshed as you're holding the key and you're standing there. From the weight of the key, we move into what shapes the corridor of choice, right? So that's kind of what I've named this corridor with all the doors. So what is it that is shaping the corridor of choice for you? And here we have the Seven of Swords. Interesting that we're still in swords. So what's shaping the corridor are your thoughts. The Seven of Swords is there's kind of two readings for the Seven of Swords. One is that the Seven of Swords indicates that there's someone or something within your environment that is working against you, that is conspiring against you. So when I first kind of came across this, they were the where I was learning it was talking about work, right? So maybe there's somebody that's working against you, or maybe somebody is using you and taking all of your ideas and taking all of the work that you're doing and claiming it for their own and getting all the promotions and the raises and everything at work, and you're still kind of in that same position. It can be in relationships, right? Like a lot of times, and it's important to remember this is all about thought, right? And because we're looking at opinions, we're looking at if you have the opinion that someone is talking about you, that somebody's working against you, that somebody is trying to ruin your reputation or slandering you in some kind of way, right? That's all the Seven of Swords, and that's going to really shape that corridor of choice. So if you feel that there are people out to get you, then the corridor might feel very limited. You might not be able to see all the doors. You might be struggling to understand what is the safe door to use. Now, the other side of the Seven of Swords is it's still it carries this idea of thievery and stealing. But when you look at it from the second side, it's what are you taking away from yourself, right? So for me, the Seven of Swords comes up a lot when I get caught up in mental activity. So I might be on the computer for a while working on something, and then I get to the end of the day, I'm like, well, I wanted to rearrange my closet, or I had to go cut the grass, or I had to do all these other things, and I never had enough time, right? So when your thoughts are going, well, I never had the time, or I never had enough, or I never was able to get, that's the Seven of Swords territory, where there's this idea that something was taken away, and a lot of times it's we'll blame someone else, but the Seven of Swords comes in and is and can be a bit harsh in the reprimand to say, hey, you're just as capable of making decisions for yourself. So where are you, shortchanging yourself? Where is it that you're kind of keeping yourself from being able to go off and do the things that you want to do, right? Like you can't keep putting the blame on other people because you have choice, you have options, you have the ability to speak for yourself. And so if you're feeling that things are being taken away from you, start at home and really start to look at what is it that needs to shift or change in your story so that you can get what it is that you're looking to get. And so when we're looking at how that shapes the corridor, then we're also looking at, how many doors have you maybe unconsciously blocked off or barricaded so that you're like, well, I only have so many choices. I can only go in this door. And if this door is wrong for the key, well, then that's someone else's fault. Or I've been shafted. I don't have such a great hallway of choice, right? And so that's kind of what we're being asked to look at is how is our thoughts and how is our relationship with accountability for one and passing the buck on for others, how is that shaping the opportunities and the choices that we have to be able to unlock, a really amazing door on in our hallway? So now that we've looked at the key and we've looked at the corridor, now we're going to look at what lights illuminate the doors. So as you're going through, is the hallway just have one big light along the top? Is it dark? Are there different wall sconces for each door, right? All of this is going to be based on the opinions that we have of the choices that are available to us. And here we have an interesting fellow. We have the King of Wands. So the King of Wands, which I will also say is sitting in the south position, which is fire. So we have a fiery king sitting in the fiery position of motivation that is also in charge of the illumination. So we've got a lot of light. We've got a lot of things going on. So I would, for me, if I was taking this, I would say, well, I guess there's a lot of fire-based lights in my corridor, right? Maybe not necessarily electric lights, but maybe there's wall sconces that are torches or even like gas lanterns, right? But to me, I would say that there's a lot of fire going on. Now, it's interesting when you look at that, right? When we're looking at what's illuminating the doors, the illumination helps us to see the doors better. And if you're dealing with, say, my image of a lot of fire-based illumination, there's flickering shadows, which means there's things about the door that you may have to lean in really close to be able to see. And so it's important to take your time. It's important to be able to allow yourself to feel really into what the doors are bringing forward. And I use feel, even though feel is more in the watery west area and our cup suits, the King of Swords is a very passionate person. He's very charismatic. He very much will follow his passions and desires. And so that's what we have to do. We have to be able to look at, and if you have different lighting on different doors, right? What's drawing your eye? What is it feeding? What is it fueling? So the doors that are lit up in a way that really attract your eye, that really, bring that energy alive and draw you into them. Those are the ones that are going to be mostly connected to your experiences that you've had. They're going to be connected to all of the ways that you've cultivated sustainable energy into your life. And so that's the door that you're going to want to stand in front of with your key. The King of Wands is also going to be able to say, hey, look it, I will help you and I will mentor you and I will guide you as you come to the door because there will be challenges in there. There will be things to do. And the other thing with the King of Wands is that he's also going to help us to understand that the best lighting that we have is the lighting that we know how to keep going. So if it's fire that we have lighting our hallway, then we need to know that we have to have enough resources and fuel to be able to keep the lights lit, or else the hallway is going to go dark because the fire is going to burn itself out. We also want to make sure that we're being very careful, excuse me, with how we tend the flame, because the last thing you want is the King of Wands to come in and point out the fact that your hallway's on fire because you poorly tended to the light. And so the illumination, I also find, comes from the way that we hold our opinions on what we can see, right? So when we're standing there and the type of light we have in the hallway, if we have very poor lighting, we might have opinions on the shoddiness of the opportunities that we have, on the lack of resources that are available. Whereas if the hallway is way too illuminated and you have nothing but fluorescent lights, it might be, your opinion might be that whatever's going on is just way too overwhelming, way too overpowering. So it's really important that we sit there and we look at what is the light source that we have, and how are we illuminating our own lives, right? Because that's what the hallway is. It's the choice opportunities that we have in our lives. And so are you walking through that hallway with one small torch in your hand because your outlook and your opinion is very gloomy, very dark, very small, and very heavy? Or are you walking into a very well lit hallway that allows you to feel safe and know that I can really see what's going on? Now we move to the doors. And so the question we have is, what draws you to choose your door? So the door that you eventually approach, the choice that you have, what is actually going to bring you to that door? And here we have the Nine of Wands. And it's interesting. So we had the King of Wands. Now we have the Nine of Wands. So we have two fire cards. But this Nine of Wands is, I think, very interestingly placed in the West, which is water. And water and fire will tend to create steam, which, one, the steam is the dousing of the fire, but two, when you create that steam, it becomes very difficult to see. And so the Nine of Wands, I always kind of look at as that final push, right? Like I always like to look at the Nine of Wands as a marathon runner, like a long distance marathon runner, and they're coming into, say, the last half kilometer of the race that they're running, and they're completely drained and they just want to collapse on the side of the road. There will be some moment where they get that boost of energy, right? It's a pivotal moment where they'll either collapse and somebody will have to go and get them, or they'll get that final boost of energy from the very depths of their heart, and they'll be able to finish the race and have that satisfaction of completion. That's what the Nine of Wands is. And so when we're looking at the door that we're choosing, it's this idea of another choice. It is so hard. Will there ever be an end to this? And if the opinion is this is never ending, then of course you're going to feel depleted. You're going to feel drained. The real uplifting message of the Nine of Swords is that it's a nine. The next step is a 10, which is completion. So you are getting close to something. And so if you're going, this is never going to end, I'm so done with this, I'm just going to pick whatever and be done with it, then you're going to just choose any random door. It doesn't matter what the weight of the key is. It doesn't matter what the hallway looks like. It doesn't matter how the hall is illuminated. You're just going to walk up to the first door, put the key in and go, yeah, see, it didn't work, right? Or you're going to open it up and go, oh yeah, this is what I want. Wow, this is horrible, right? Because that's the opinion that you're having, is that no matter what you do, you're always going to get the short end of the stick, or you're always going to get, something other than what it is that you planned or wanted or hoped. If you have the other side of the Nine of Wands, then you're going to be looking and going, okay, this is going to be maybe the last decision I have to make on this project or on this goal or on this whatever it is that you're in the hallway to find. And I've got my key, and my key says, yeah, this is going to be good. And the hallway, the corridor is wide, there's lots of space, and I can really see where I'm going. And so now I'm going to move, and I'm going to allow myself to be in that moment of, okay, where's the feeling coming from? Where's the energy? And you're going to feel like a kind of energy as you approach the right door. And so when you get there, you'll feel the energy filling you. You'll feel more pulled to the door. You'll feel more excited. And that's what it is that you kind of want to be able to tap into with the Nine of Wands. And our final card is, what are the thoughts that arise as you unlock the door? So now you've got the key, you've checked out the hallway, you can see where you're going, you've picked your door, and now you're going to put the key in the lock. And what are the thoughts that arise as you unlock the door? And wow, what a beautiful place to end. You've got the Empress. So if you're willing to challenge your opinions, if you're willing to shift the way you're looking at things, if you're willing to feel into what's going on so you can see what's under the opinion and ask yourself, is this true, or is this just a momentary thought that I have? Then you're going to be able to unlock the door and open it to Gaia, the Empress. And one of the reasons why I think this is absolutely the best card that you could get for this reading is that my idea with this hallway and this key is that the doors are irrelevant. The key holds the power. And so you could pick any door and put the key in, and whatever the key will unlock the door. The key will unlock all the doors, right? That's not the issue. It's not about whether I'm going to pick the right door. It's when I put the key in the lock and I turn the lock and I open the door, what will be revealed? Because the key is unlimited possibility that takes your thoughts in the invitation of the page, and it also takes the thoughts that you have here of the Seven of Swords, and it will manifest that into the space that you're unlocking. And so if you're in a very uplifting place, if you're following the things that you know you're passionate about, and if you're tapping into that last kind of energy push, you're going to walk into a space that is going to be rich, abundant, fulfilling, where you can plant all the seeds of your goals and your hopes and your dreams and see them flourish. If you're stuck and you're afraid to take that invitation, if you're thinking about all these other people working against you and all the times that you've burned the house down and that you just don't have energy to just do it again, you're going to unlock that door and you're going to end up in a very small, confining space that's just going to perpetuate these beliefs even more and just kind of have these negative opinions that are just going to be more and more, I would say, negatively tinged, judgmental statements that are going to come out about who you are, about your life, and about what's going on in the world. And I will also say that having the Empress here as the final card, being that she's the only major arcana card in here, is very, very telling as well, is to say, you know what, the world is your oyster, right? There's so much bounty out there. There's so much available to you out there. Are you willing to turn the key and accept it? And what I'll say is when I was coming up with the idea of this, the hallway and how the key works, I was thinking of the movie Labyrinth, and there's a part of the movie where Hoggle shows up in the oubliette with the main character and Sarah. And so they're in here and he's like, okay, well, it's time for us to go. And she's like, we'll go, but there's no doors. And he said, sure there is. And he pulls a rag off the floor and he lifts the door and he puts it on the wall and he takes his keychain and he opens it and he opens the door and it's a broom closet. And he's like, oh, it's always make this mistake. And so he closes the door and he turns the key again. And this time he opens it up and it's the hallway to go out. And so that to me became the perfect idea of how opinions work, is that, you know, first opinion, Sarah says, there's no door. And then Hall goes like, yeah, sure, there's a door. And he opens the door to the wrong place. And so that's the idea of, okay, so now we're shifting our opinions, right? So here's a door, but it opens up and doesn't go where we wanted it to go. But it shifts the idea that there's no door. And then when he opens it up to reveal the way out, it's like, oh, okay, so I now understand that my opinion now is I can get out. So I thought that was really, really great way to kind of tap into this idea of opinions. And so in summary, what we're dealing with our opinions is we're dealing with a lot of thought, right? We're dealing with every situation brings a new thought, and then the thought, you know, like, how are we going to interact with that thought? Are we going to take it as something's being taken away? Are we going to take it as I have the ability to reclaim what it is that I want? And then we're dealing with energy, right? Because the thing is our opinions will either feed our energy, the proper things that we need to feed, or they're going to deplete our energy and leave us just kind of dwindling on the side of the road, never really able to follow our passion to finish that marathon and get to the other side. And holding this all together and standing in the east, which is, you know, the openness, the new beginning, the fresh air, the sunrise, all of that is the Empress, who's saying, whatever it is that you want, I will offer you the ground to plant your seeds, and I will offer you the resources that you need to build the house. I will offer you all the keys that you need to unlock all the doors that you want. You need to have the faith and the trust, and you need to be willing to put in the work and the effort, because although the Empress has all the things there, she is Gaia, and there is nothing on the planet that just pops into existence without work, without thought, without loving, tendering, nurturing, caring for all of that stuff. And so this is what we're being asked to, is we're being asked to really care for, tend to, nurture ourselves so that the opinions that we do have, because there's no way that you can live through life without having any opinions, but the opinions that you do have become things that allow you to really explore and understand what's going on within you and within your world. So I hope you enjoyed my little tangent and my little dancing around with opinions, and that something from this reading has resonated for you and you walk away with an different opinion than you might have come in with. So with that, if you enjoyed the reading, please like and subscribe to the channel. I look forward to seeing you again next week. And in the meantime, take care, and I will see you around the webs.